Hey there, let's talk about how to install your Raspberry Pi from scratch and get to first boot and first login without actually having to plug in a monitor at all. This is a pure headless setup because for me personally, I hate walking over to like a TV or a monitor or something and plugging the Pi in or getting my portable monitor out. It's just a pain in the butt. I'd rather just, manipulate the SD card, get it all installed, and then connect to it and configure it right away. Of course, this video assumes that you're not going to use your Pi with a desktop or a monitor at all, because if you are, you might as well just start doing that. But for me, a lot of my Pis are just headless. They're servers or they're fun experiments or whatever. So the first thing that we should do, obviously you need an SD card. And you need an SD card reader. So if you're on this video, you probably already have like an SD card and an SD card reader. This is like a super old reader where you could stick a card in there. I got a slightly newer one plugged into the computer right now. And if you bought an SD card or a micro SD card with the Pi, you probably had a little adapter that came with it, a regular SD card adapter. So you can stick the tiny little card into the adapter. But if you're lucky and your card reader has a slot for micro SD, you probably just need that. So the first thing that you should do is go over to raspberrypi.com. Their foundation has a common org. I think org is more for the community. But go to raspberrypi.com and then click on software and download the Raspberry Pi operating system. So I'm going to do this the manual way. I'm just going to write an image. If you want to do this with an imager, or if you have like something else that you already know how to do, that's totally fine. Go ahead and do it. I really just want you to put the operating system onto the card. Check my other videos because I'll be posting about how to do this with Windows and other stuff. I guess you don't need that if you're going to use the imager, but it's more fun to do it manually. All right, so notice how it says manually install an operating system. I'm going to click on the download options. Select the operating system. So modern Pis can use the 64-bit OS. That's what I'm going to do. If you have, I think, like a Pi 1 or 2, you might be stuck using the legacy, like the 32-bit. What's the difference between those two? 32-bit? Oh, don't do legacy. I think that's like really old. I don't know. Maybe it depends on how old your Pi is, but just hover the mouse and notice how one of them says 32-bit. That's what you would use if your board is not 32. But as far as I understand, I mean, definitely the Pi 4 and the Pi 5, for me, they worked with 64 bits. I think my Pi 3 worked with 64 bits, although I'm not 100% sure everything was okay after install. So just basically click on that. Then it'll ask you, all right, what version of the 64-bit do you want to download? If you're going to be installing a desktop, you don't really need this video, so I'm just going to assume you don't need a desktop. You want this to be totally headless. So that means the desktop is too much. It's too much to download. It's kind of a waste. Same thing for desktop with recommended software. Instead, I'm going to click on the light version because that's the fastest to download and it's all we need. So I'm going to click on that and it'll download. And you could probably pause the video right now because I already downloaded this. So pause the video and then wait for your download to finish and then come back with me. This is where I chose to save my image file. You probably actually don't have a .image file. You probably have an image that ends in the XZ extension. If we look at the website again, at least as of the time I made this video, notice how the URL at the very bottom of that says .xz at the end. That just means it's a zipped image so that it's faster to download. So in order to unzip that and make it a regular image, you basically say unxz and then type the name of the file. Actually, it would probably end in xz if you had it. So you just kind of wait a little while for that to unzip, and then when you're done, it'll show the image file like I have. Okay, anyway, so now that we've downloaded the image file, the next thing we need to do is actually write to the SD card. So I'm going to take the SD card right now and stick it into the card reader. This is going to be awkward. Hang on. Awkward. My giant fingers aren't working. Oh, I almost did it. I almost got it. Oh, man. Welcome to my life. Bro, I need a flashlight or something. Oh my God, finally. Finally. Okay. I am kind of in a dark room and it's like upside down and my hands are big and it's like way over there. It's already plugged in. I didn't want to unplug the card reader because sometimes they don't show up again if you plug them back in and you have to like reset the USB root hub. I really didn't want to do that. So let's see. The first thing that you probably should have done actually before plugging in the SD card, so maybe unplug your SD card real fast just to check, is just take note of what's already plugged into your computer. I already know, so it's fine for me, but for you, you probably want to run a program called Parted, which is short for Partition Editor. It'll just show you what disks and partitions and stuff you have in your system. So I'm going to run it. If you don't have it, it's probably for you sudo apt install Parted. I'm going to do print devices. And, oh, okay, I'm on a host machine right now. I got to send that USB into the guest. So I guess it all worked out. Notice how it's telling me this is the only disk that's present. It's like my 200 gigabyte virtual machine disk. So then I'm going to tell my host machine to give that card reader to the guest machine. USB host device, card reader, finish. Hopefully the video didn't skip or do anything weird. And then if I do print devices again, now another thing showed up. And I'm able to access it. I know for sure this is dev SD. God damn it! I know this is dev SDB because that's what just showed up. So remember that. That's very important. You don't want to get that wrong. Notice these annoying pop-ups that happened. That's because there was already a file system on the card. Because I play around with these things and it's not erased right now. So that's okay. You can just close these little pop-ups if you're Linux auto mounts or anything like that. But you have to unmount before you start writing to the card, because if you write to a card or a drive or anything that's already mounted somewhere, then you're probably going to corrupt your data. So I'm going to do mount just to check what the mounts are. And I'm going to search for SDB since I know that's the device that just showed up. So it's telling me that it's mounted on those two folders, which we recognize at this point because we just saw them pop up. So I'm just going to unmount them real fast to make sure that I don't screw anything up. Okay. All right. And then one more time, mount pattern matching with grep against SDB. Now they're gone. So it's probably safe to write to the SD card now. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll say sudo. Actually, let me just list real fast the image. Okay, so we're going to write the image to the SD card using that card reader. I should probably also point out that if you don't understand what I'm doing on the command line, you could just follow along. But I have other videos that are, fairly decent tutorials on using the command line and connecting to machines over the remote and making SSH keys and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and use a command called dd, which writes directly to some drive or block device. It's very, very dangerous, so be careful. You could destroy your whole computer this way. I actually did this once a long time ago. I didn't check what the output specification was, and I watched my computer totally erase itself, and a little tear went down on my cheek. So we'll specify the in file, if equals, and that's pretty easy. I just have to specify the image I just downloaded. Make sure you unzipped yours before you do this. Then the out file is going to be the block device that just showed up, dev SDB. If you see other tutorials on the internet with SDB 1 and 2, those numbers after the SDB or the block device, those usually are just partitions. So you want to write the whole entire card, the whole entire image to the whole entire card. You don't want to specify a partition. I'm also going to specify conv equals fsync. For me, it's a little bit safer. I don't know if this is needed on SD cards, but for USB thumb drives, they'll sometimes lie to you and say that data has been written even though it has not, in order to appear faster than they really are. So if you do conv fsync, it makes that safe again, because you don't want the command to say that it's finished writing and it's not, and then you unplug the device and then whoops, you have corrupted data now because it didn't finish. And then I'm going to do status equals progress, just so I can see what's happening. Okay, so at this point now we're just waiting. I'm going to watch the progress for myself very carefully. And then I'm going to, I guess I'm going to pause the video and I'll come back when it's done writing. And so you should just probably pause the video right now, and then when your card is finished writing, then come back and resume with me. We'll do an initial IP address and we'll connect to it. We'll set up the SD card and all that stuff without ever plugging in a monitor. Totally headless. It's pretty sweet. Okay, I'm going to pause. Okay, I'm back. So I had an issue that I want to share with you real fast. What happened is while my SD card was writing, the auto mounting service just came up and produced a folder, and I got kind of scared. And then when I went to go into the files, I started getting read-write errors. So I think I actually corrupted my card. I ended up disabling the service that auto mounts and then writing the card again from scratch. So just for you, the command that you would probably need if you have the auto mounting service enabled on your machine is sudo systemcontrol stop udisks2.service. You don't want to disable it because you probably want it running after you're done doing all your installs, but you want to do stop so that it stops right now and then start the SD card writing all over again from scratch. So with that in mind, let's see. Hopefully this is going to show up now. Sudo parted. And then I'll do print devices again to see what's up. Okay, so it's in there. Now let's see if we have read-write errors or if it's actually going to work this time. So I turned off the auto mounting service, which means I have to mount it from scratch probably. So let's just double check to make sure it didn't actually mount. Media, mic. Okay, so nothing's in there, so that's good. So now I am going to go into the temp folder and then the Pi folder. And then the boot folder and the root are just going to be mounted. So I'm going to say sudo mount device SDB. Is that what I just saw? I forgot. SDB, yeah. SDB1 goes to boot. And then SDB2 goes to root. And now we have access, hopefully, to the file system. So I'm going to go into the boot file system. So this is the boot partition that your Pi will have when it's running and stuff. So first thing we need to do is tell the Pi that we want its SSH server to be enabled at boot. There's not really that much that we have to do here. We'll just basically create an empty file with the touch command. So I'm going to say touch SSH. And now if you look, there's an SSH file. It's totally empty, but that lets the Pi know that we want the SSH server to run whenever it boots. Then we have to modify the command line so that we can set a fixed IP in advance. So, sudo nano command line or vim or whatever you like to use. What you're looking for here is root wait. Right after that, you have to put the specification for the IP address that you want. So you probably should know what your IP address what your IP subnet is before you start. We're not going to do IPv6 in this video, but because we just need IPv4 to get into the Pi. And then from that point, you can configure it however you feel like. But so most people's routers are 192.168.1.1 or sometimes .0.1. Whatever yours is, you have to figure it out. You have to go find out what your router's IP is. Your subnet is probably just the first 3 numbers because most routers, consumer routers, default to a 24 block, which just basically means the first 24 bits have to stay fixed and the last 8 bits can change for an IP address to be considered in the same subnet as some other. So for me, I know mine is .1 something, so I'm going to assign 123 to my Pi's Ethernet adapter because that's just what I want. You have to choose a number that's available on your network. If you don't really know, then it probably won't matter too much because if you fix a number that's already in use, the other computer will probably get kicked off the network and then try to rejoin and then it'll end up using a different number. Most DHCP servers that I've seen on consumer routers will kind of stop at high numbers, like they'll go from 2 to 99 or something like that. So if you want to be like a little bit on the safer side, you could choose a higher number. But it's fine. So right after root wait, IP equals, and then the IP address that you've chosen. So that's it for the boot partition. Let's go into the root partition now. So the root partition is just like the root of the file system. It's got the actual root folder, so that's the home directory for the root account. We could go in there and modify that if we wanted to, but I just like to modify the Pi account, because every Pi, by default with these OS installs, it comes with an account called Pi, and it's also an admin. So its home folder is going to be the root of the file system /home/Pi, but for this particular mount, it starts at root, so we have to go cd into home, and then cd into Pi. So from your Pi's perspective, it's just going to be this folder right here, /home/Pi. I've mounted it so I see a different path. If I list it, you can see some starter files for the Pi. So I'm going to create a directory. I can do make directory and call it .ssh, a special folder where all your SSH configuration is. Again, if you don't understand SSH or keys or anything like that, see my other videos. I'll talk about how to make SSH keys and connect from Windows and connect from Linux and all that stuff. But it's not too bad. You can just kind of follow along with me. If you don't have a key, by the way, on your host machine, so let me go up here on the host machine. You can do something like SSH-keygen type ED25519 and then just hit enter a bunch of times, and you should be able to get your SSH key created. You probably want to eventually learn how to put a password on it, but that's okay for now. So I'm going to go into the SSH folder, and I want to create a special file called authorized keys, meaning I want to authenticate some SSH keys that will be allowed to connect into the Pi. So for my host machine, I'm going to print out my public key, at least for this ID, right? I got to do ID ed.pub. So this is just like a useless key. I mean, the public keys are always okay to share on the internet. It's fine, but like, I feel better about this because it's just my VM for videos. It doesn't actually run most of the time. I've lost. Okay, something happened. Okay, so basically you just take this key, the whole entire public key, get the pub, not the one that doesn't have pub, and just paste it into the authorized keys file. So then we have to set permissions. The authorized key file, we're going to go chmod. I think it's supposed to be like 6 or 700, but basically the system probably doesn't want any other user to have permissions. So that's why we do something 00, either 6 or 7. I think 6 might be it, but I'm just going to stick with 7 just to help this video go along a little bit faster. Make sure it's owned by the same user as the Pi. In this case, the Pi user is just sort of like the first user that was created, so it'll end up having the same user as you if on your host machine you are also the first user. If not, you're probably going to have to figure out how to set a different user owner, or maybe just do the root account instead. Maybe I'll show you that real fast. So then we go up one level, and the system probably also does not want the SSH key to be, or SSH folder to be browsable by other users. It's also kind of a bad idea. So I'm just going to go chmod. We'll do like another 700 SSH. It definitely has to be 700 instead of 600. If you don't know permissions, by the way, then just see my other videos. Otherwise, trust me. But long story short, not a good idea to be able to let other users into your SSH folder. So that's why I'm doing that. At this point, we're probably done authenticating. We can probably jump into the Pi, but let me just show you real fast. If we go into the root folder, permission denied. Okay, sudo su root, and then go into the root folder. Notice how if we're in temp Pi root, that's the root partition. So really, from the Pi's perspective, we're trying to edit a file called /root, because that's the home folder for the root account on the Pi. It's basically the same thing. There's like an SSH folder in there, and you can add an authorized keys file if you want to be able to log into the root account on your Pi. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter, and I think we're probably done. Let me just double check my notes real fast here. Oh no, I forgot to look at my notes. First connection. Did I forget anything? I probably forgot a bunch of stuff. Authorized keys. All right, let's see if it actually works. So I'm going to now unmount. Got to do that. Don't forget to unmount. So I'm going to go sudo umount boot, sudo umount root. If either of those say the device is busy, you probably are still in that directory in like a different terminal tab or account or something. One of the mistakes I always make is I go sudo su root, and then I forget that the regular user is actually still in that same folder, even if I navigate to somewhere else in the root account. So just make sure everything's okay. And then you can, if you want to double check, you can say mount point boot and mount point root, and it'll tell you that they're not mount points. So at this point, it's probably okay to remove the card from the card reader, remove the micro SD card, stick it into the Pi, and then I'm going to plug the Pi into Ethernet because that's the IP address that I just set up. So I'm plugging it into the Ethernet real fast. You can't see, it's off camera. I have a short cable. And then I'm going to plug it into its power. So now my Pi is totally on. And I'm going to start trying to ping that IP address as fast as I can. I should have started pinging before anything happened, because it's more fun to see when the pings begin. Wouldn't you agree? No? Okay. Let's see what's happening. I see some flashing on the Ethernet cable and the power lights. I always get nervous that I've done something wrong when I'm being recorded, because, you know, in regular life, I do stuff wrong all the time, and it's fine. Nobody remembers. I just have to, like, quickly catch myself and correct my mistakes. Awkward. This small amount of time has turned into a huge amount of time in my mind. Wait, what am I doing? What am I doing? Oh, that's what happened. Oh, a huge mistake. I forgot to put an extra number there. For some reason, it filled in to 0. I was too rushed. Okay, so the Pi probably came on a long time ago. You're welcome for the laugh. So now that the Pi is online, I can try to SSH into it and just hope that my authentication works. So I'm going to do Pi at, because I didn't make a user account that matched Mike. I just made a Pi user account. So I'm going to do that. And host verification has failed. So that just is because I've been using that same IP address for different videos today. So I have to remove that from the memory of my SSH client. So I'm going to go SSH keygen, or this is a good security feature. Basically, it's saying that your system remembers connecting to a totally different machine at that same IP, so it thinks somebody is being hacked. So I'm just going to remove the record and then try to connect again. Now it's going to say, all right, do you want to connect? Do you trust this? I guess I do, probably. And here we are. We're inside of a Raspberry Pi now. This is basically the end of the video, because you can kind of do whatever you want now. Notice how I never plugged in HDMI. I didn't have to look at a desktop. I didn't have to do anything except just connect to the Pi over the network. For me, this is really convenient. You just write the SD card, modify a couple of things, plug into Ethernet, and then boom, you can configure it. So you can go into, you know, Network Manager and like look at the connections and modify them, set the IP addresses however you want, set any other configuration any way you want, harden the security. So the point of this video is just how to get in without really plugging into a monitor. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned a little bit of stuff and had a little bit of fun. I suppose I will see you in the next video. Hey everybody. Thanks for watching this video again. From the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate it. I do hope you did learn something and have some fun. If you could do me a small little favor, could you please subscribe and follow this channel or these videos or whatever it is you do on the current social media website that you're looking at right now. It would really mean the world to me, and it'll help make more videos and grow this community. So we'll be able to do more videos, longer videos, better videos, or just I'll be able to keep making videos in general. So please do me a kindness and subscribe. You know, sometimes I'm sleeping in the middle of the night and I just wake up because I know somebody subscribed or followed. It just wakes me up and I get filled with joy. That's exactly what happens every single time. So you could do it as a nice favor to me, or you could troll me if you want to just wake me up in the middle of the night. Just subscribe, and then I'll just wake up. I promise that's what will happen. Also, if you look at the middle of the screen right now, you should see a QR code which you can scan in order to go to the website, which I think is also named somewhere at the bottom of this video. And it'll take you to my main website where you can just kind of like see all the videos I published and the services and tutorials and things that I offer and all that good stuff. And if you have a suggestion for clarifications or errata or just future videos that you want to see, please leave a comment. Or if you just want to say, hey, what's up? What's going on? You know, just send me a comment. Whatever. I also wake up for those in the middle of the night. I wake up in a cold sweat and I'm like, it would really mean the world to me. I would really appreciate it. So again, thank you so much for watching this video, and enjoy the cool music as I fade into the darkness, which is coming for us all. Okay. Hey there, let's talk about how to boot your Raspberry Pi, or fart on yourself,